When you joined, when you took on your role, your team was roughly 600 people, I believe you've told me. Today it's closer to 3,000, spanning
Yes.
technology, digital, marketing, brand. Talk a bit about what drove that substantial growth across your tenure.
Yeah, one of those things I think is as you're successful, the company asks you to do more. So our team has built some foundational elements first that was really important early days. As you can imagine, Peter, you have this in large organizations, you had many individual kind of islands of capabilities, and our job early on was really to consolidate that. We knew that you needed to have a very strong digital foundation in order to be able to build anything on top of it. And I'm answering the question of growth, but really by explaining that we needed to put that foundation together first. Then we could add capabilities to go and better serve our internal business partners. So we built a digital platform. That's where the initial engineering team came in and helped build that. But then after that, we needed to build individual applications on top of that digital platform that would serve the needs of different business segments and their customers. So we built e-commerce applications on top of it. We built fleet management applications. We built our technician applications to support the technicians out in the field. And all that over time, led for more and more demand. So today we have, as you said, close to 3,000 people working on problems that I would say are much broader than the set of challenges that we were dealing with at the beginning.
And I wonder if we could go to one level of granularity further. As you combine telematics data with the oil samples, service history, sensor data to predict these issues, talk a bit how difficult was it to bring those data sources together to deliver what you've just described. Talk a bit about that process, if you would.
Yeah, that was our really initial big lift, let's call it. We built a platform called Helios, right? And Helios is really that center repository of the data. It triggers millions of pipelines every day from dealers. You collect data from dealers. We collect telematics data. As I said, we collect these oil samples and history, job, work orders. We look at third-party data as well, so we'll integrate weather and some other public data sources too. And then all of that gets processed by we have a team, very capable team, if I may add, of AI machine learning experts. They look at all this data and they say, okay, based on these 20, 30 different data sources, they come up with these recommendations and that they're processed and sent to our dealers, and often now through digital means, which wasn't really possible before, but now we can do it, actually send them directly to our customers through digital tools. So the customers can see, hey, I got to go and address this. Looking at their equipment management, we'll tag the assets and we'll say, okay, this asset needs to be looked at today. Otherwise, you're running the risk of the asset potentially going out of service. So that's what we processed in the back end. All of this was built on public cloud. We're very again, proud of this. This platform, Helios, was recently featured. Barb Wixom in MIT Center for Information Systems Research featured as a case study in building digital asset at scale in enterprise. So again, our team did a phenomenal job, and I'm very proud of them for building this.
Rightfully so. Congratulations on that. You've also rebuilt Caterpillar's e-commerce platform, which some may be surprised to know drives billions of dollars of transactions. Can you talk a bit about that process? How does e-commerce fit into your broader dealer and customer strategy? And talk a bit about building up that e-commerce capability.
Yeah, Peter, this is very surprising to a lot of people when I talk to them that we even do e-commerce, let alone that we do it at that scale. So today we we do about in 2024, I'll give you the last public numbers, about 18.8 million of dollars per business day in e-commerce. And if you translate that annually, it's about $5 billion a year. So how do we do that? Well, it's primarily parts, even though I have to tell you that we have more and more interest in customers buying our equipment, so the original equipment online as well. So we have a lot of efforts going in that direction. But on parts, the key thing is to have the right part available to a customer very close and in the time that they need it. So we have customer can pick up parts, they can get parts delivered. Usually there are drop boxes and the customer job sites. And, we offer 1.5 million different parts for customers to pick from. We go far back. Caterpillar equipment, I guess for somebody in my position, it's always a challenge. Actually, it, performs really well for decades and it gets rebuilt frequently, right? So this is a challenge. We need to keep parts for machines that were shipped, in 70s and 80s, and we do. And then we make sure that customers can get them on moment's notice. So this is what our e-commerce platform allows them to do. We have it available on phone, and you can use it in mobile. You can use it obviously in web for our bigger customers, and we can also directly integrate into customers' ERP solutions. So if they are running their business on their own ERP, we'll plug in directly into that, make it very easy for them to order directly from us. So it's been a great success. We rebuilt it completely 3-4 years ago, and we keep adding capabilities to it. One of the obvious big changes that we're introducing is AI capabilities. So we'll make even easier for customers to find the part that they look for. Today, you can be coming, if you just come to the web store without knowing what you're looking for, it can be overwhelming. A lot of parts to look for, and you need to know which assets you have in order to get the right part. So we put serialized QR codes in all of our machines a few years back. So you can just scan that when you go to the parts store, then you'll know exactly what parts will fit your machine, which is what our customers want. They want peace of mind they're buying the right part first time.
Something you also shared with me, technicians are a key part of your workforce, but also they can be hard to hire and retain, not just in your company, but across the industry. Talk a bit about the role that AI is playing, tools like smart glasses and guided diagnostics, and helping less experienced technicians become productive more quickly.
Yeah, I hope to be able to tell you more about the AI assistant we just launched last week at CES, which was really exciting times for us. But the challenge in our industry in general is you can go down safety, productivity, and labor, right? And labor is a big challenge. We don't have as many experienced technicians. We got a whole generation that's retiring soon. So we need to make it easier for new technicians to come into this ecosystem and learn easier, right? There are fewer people to learn from as well. So that was one of the driving objectives for us to introduce Cat AI Assistant in the first place. So it will actually guide you and coach a less experienced technician as you come to look at the machine. Okay, here's the history of it. Here's what we looked at last time. Maybe you should perform these following steps. We can guide you through inspection and actually help you do it. And then as glasses become better over time, we actually expect that we'll be able to actually truly guide a technician and do everything just with glasses. So he wouldn't even need to have a tablet or something else next to him to look at the 3D images of assemblies and of machines and engines themselves. So technology is actually enabling us to create entirely new use cases for technicians that were not possible in just recently. We have this tool we call SIS. SIS has 25,000 books roughly in it that you can search, and imagine the power of all that in a single tool. And now you put AI on top of it, and it only surfaces things that are truly relevant for you and that job that you're on right now. I view AI as something that will really simplify how people consume information from Caterpillar. Today, we have a number of apps that I absolutely adore, love them, but it is our job to actually make sure that our customers don't need to learn the depth and full capabilities of all these apps, but instead just get the information that they need at the right moment. And surface that sounds easy, but it's actually not so easy to do, right? Because you need to be exact and precise in what you're surfacing and what insight you're sharing with the customer at the right moment. And I think that's one of our biggest opportunities, and also something I'm very proud of the progress we made in.
Understandably. Another important insight actually that you share with me that I found fascinating was only about 5% of the workforce operates in construction, yet it accounts for roughly 20% of workplace fatalities. Can you talk a bit about how AI-powered safety capabilities are changing outcomes on job sites?
Yeah, that's really a sobering fact that you shared. I mean, I was also first time I heard it, I'm taken aback a little bit. I mean, we as industry, we got to do everything in our power to ensure safety over time gets better. So one of the capabilities of AI Assistant, we actually demonstrated that as well, is a lot of our equipment has a lot of safety features, but you need to know how to properly use it at times. And one example is if you work in an environment, so if you're next to the highway, for example, and you have a mini excavator, you don't want your boom and stick to be allowed to go actually over the road, or to go up if you have cables or wires above, not to go over a certain height. And before, you would have to do that with your stick, with your joystick. So you go left and right, up and down. But now we can just set what we call e-fence, and you can have AI assistants say, hey, set the e-fence, so this is as far left as I go and as far as right as I go, and then let me know if you see any object, and if you detect anything, stop immediately. So all those things become possible with technology that we have on our machines, and also with AI intelligence that's being put on top of that. So getting great reactions from customers that are seeing this, some of this for the first time.
And as we talk about through the conversation, a number of the foundational elements that you put in place that have enabled the remarkable innovation you've been describing. I know another one was the retirement of multiple legacy platforms and moving to common services architecture. Can you talk a bit about those steps and the role they've played in enabling what you've described?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I think it's very hard to innovate if you have multiple platforms trying to or doing overlapping things. And I think a lot of enterprises are probably facing some of this. There's legacy applications that are built. We had a lot of data being copied and sent back and forth every night. You could have two different applications potentially show different data because data was not properly organized, structured, and cleansed. So for us, we knew that in order to bring these business results really that came afterwards, we needed to ensure that those additional, that the complexity in the system was taken away and that the data was trustworthy. There's no way we do this AI innovation so quickly. We launched the AI assistant in 10 months from the moment we started building it, unless we had data structured, organized, and cleansed prior to that. So those platforms had to go. It was painful. I have to tell you, it's not easy to go and do this. I mean, everybody has a reason why you should keep their platform going for another month or two, a year or two. You have to find funding to deprecate all technology, but it was so well worth it in the end. I mean, this is one of those journeys that you, at the end of a journey, like, of course we had to do it, right? But when you embark on a journey, and I want to share that with anybody that's going through that journey, just do it. It will be worth it. You got to do it. I mean, if you don't do it, you will feel the pain, and it will not be easy to bring the apps that you really want to bring to market. So my advice.